Mowgli wants to be in the jungle. Baloo wants Mowgli in the jungle. Almost everyone wants Mowgli in the jungle except the jungle. But it almost seems that it's not personal, right? The jungle knows that it's putting itself at risk if they let this human that's supposed to be civilized back into the jungle.
Ask about Illuminati, since the charting up the ducks. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, go wish upon a star. Occult Disney, to no wrong to chat far. Occult Disney, leading your land, Pinocchio. Occult Disney, as above, so below. Pinocchio seeks fun on Pleasure Island, where traffickers need just falling minds. Captain Hook, the lost boy in Neverland, saving kids from Peter Pan's designs. Nemo feels to survive the Barracuda, and that nobody means no one. Snow White never took another breath. Bird Prince, the angel of death has come. Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, go wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know what to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah, Occult Disney, it's a bomb so below. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we go trouncing around the jungle, not looking for mice in this case, but looking for baboons and elephants and panthers and tigers. It's the Jungle Book 2, which is not the second Jungle Book. The second Jungle Book, the second Jungle Book is a different thing. This is clearly the Jungle Book 2. This is Matt here. Hi, Thomas. What's up?
I'm ready to get mind controlled.
All right, sounds good. I could do the binaural thing, except I can't do that into one microphone, can I? You gotta have stereo for that. I had a weird experience watching this movie, and that you could tell me what your take was, but I thought the voice acting was very good. I thought the animation was very good. It looked really good, but I was like, there's no point to this to speak of. I mean, hopefully you have more of a point than I do, but it just like, I think I wrote in my notes, sound and fury signifying nothing is kind of what I got out of the Jungle Book 2. How about you?
No, I thought that I got a lot out of this, and funny enough, I thought the animation was not the greatest, not as good as it could have been for a movie that was a theatrical release. Or I guess I kind of need to know where I should temper my expectations. If this was a straight to video that got promoted, or if it was always going to be a theatrical release.
It's one of our promoted straight to video ones, which I guess I was giving it that this was going to be direct to video card. So in that way,
fair
it
enough,
looks pretty good. Lilo and Stitch would be like the other side of that card, right? Where it, I guess, was always like, I think early on they were like, it's going to be theatrical. This was a late choice, like Piglet or Peter Pan 2. It's kind of Disney not having many theatrical hits that aren't Pixar at this moment, and throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. This one actually stuck pretty well. It made worldwide $135.7 million on a budget of $20 million. So from a business standpoint, certainly nobody was, having a bad day with this one.
Yeah, they printed money with this movie, and I think my initial takeaway was that the reason for this movie to exist was as a straight up babysitting tool. And it's like one of the very first ones that it almost seems designed, and maybe just because I haven't seen a lot of straight to video movies and we've been skipping those, but it had the feel to it like you're going to plop your kid down in front of this thing and you're going to go off and do whatever you have to do. And don't worry, we got it from here.
No, some people credit all the direct-to-video stuff with kind of like kneecapping the whole Disney Renaissance thing. So this is maybe them trying to pick up the pieces a little bit and being like, oh, maybe we should get more theatrical, which they should have decided early in production for the most part. Again, no one's questioning the business decisions of Jungle Book 2. I was looking at the numbers. I was like, oh my God, it passed 100 million. That means it's like successful.
And this, just to be clear, this is theatrical income, right? Or does this also include VHS and DVD sales and all that?
No, this is theatrical, but worldwide. I believe we are getting the worldwide number. Oh, the music. Yeah, I knew there was something else I wanted to throw in. I thought the music was pretty good, so I looked it up, and that was Joel McNeely, who later did a bunch of scores for the Orville, which tends to have very good music. So
I thought it was like, better than good. Better than good.
Very John Williams-like, which, that's fine. And I don't know if that completely fits the Jungle Book. That took the sting away from the fact that I'm like, they're doing Bare Necessities for the 4th time. It's like they couldn't write songs for it. They're just Bare Necessities again. Everyone knows it. Do it again.
They're going to milk the hell out of that. And I think that they're just really pushing the communist angle, the like, you're going to eat bugs angle.
Oh, right. Well, we got that rolling with the first one. Although here's a big takeaway that I got. I don't know, maybe because I've read a bunch of like metaphysical books, things about India and stuff. And it's like this village, and you saying communism made me think of this. So maybe there's a connection. This village in, like the home of Hinduism seems to have zero spiritualism whatsoever, except for like a bindi dot on what's her name's head, Shanti's head, right? That's about the only thing that and that's just window dressing, isn't it? I just feel like a village like that might have something a little more profound going on. I don't know. Even Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, you kind of got that feeling from the dying village where they had all the kids kidnapped.
Well, so I love the reference. There is some spiritualism going on here. Maybe this is why it's Occult Disney, because it's really not totally on the surface. But this is real. Like I did a little bit of homework on this one. I did some extra legwork. So in India, a lot of different places, they have specific rituals and rites in order to protect themselves from tigers, like specifically Bengal tigers. And they have an entire goddess, and I believe I might have it mispronounced, but it's like the Bonbibi, Bonbibi, which is in some aspects, if you look at the origins, it might have been like Muhammad's daughter or something. It gets a little bit murky. And I think you've got a picture of Muhammad we can pull up on the screen really quick, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
No, okay.
I use him as my background, like a cartoon version. Someone drew it.
So, but anyway, there's this goddess, Bonbibi, which is the spirit responsible for protecting people from the tiger. And there's also, and I guess the tiger's kind of run by this dude that runs the demon realm, or he's like a demon. And forgive me, because I'm not like, I had to just do my own like American style research on this, but it's called Dakin Rai. And he's basically depicted as this demon that can take the form of a tiger and prey on humans. And like one of the main rituals involves like either banishing him or placating him before you go into the jungle, or to just protect your village from the jungle. And the reason that I even got into this whole tangent is because there's a line that Shanti says to Mowgli, or I think she's speaking of Mowgli's, her little brother. And she says, everyone knows that tigers don't come into the village. And I had to think on that for a while. I was like, what do you mean everyone knows tigers don't come into a village? That doesn't sound like something real, but it is.
Like how bears come to a campsite.
But it is real. It's a real belief, because if you follow through these rituals and these rites, then the tigers aren't going to come into the village. And in fact, if they do, it's seen more as the village wasn't keeping up their end of the bargain. They weren't doing the right animal sacrifices in order to appease either the demon god that was represented by tigers, or to this Bon Bibi who represents protection from that energy. But that little line where she says everyone knows tigers don't come into villages is, I believe, a direct reference to this much deeper sort of mythology.
I was actually kind of wondering if I was being a bit ignorant, because when I was talking about spirituality and it's throughout Hinduism, I'm trying to figure out where exactly this is set. I mean, obviously India, but India is a very large country, and there, like you were mentioning, Muhammad. I'm just curious how this area rocks.
It's a mishmash, right? Because
yeah, I guess so.
Because they show tigers and they show a sloth bear, which I had to find out he's actually a sloth bear, and sloth bears do eat honey and bugs primarily, which is, I guess, like really on point with how they kind of cast Baloo. But the area where you would see a Bengal tiger and you would see monkeys and the jungle and ruins, and there's even lava at one point that's like going under Shere Khan's sort of like little hideaway. And crazy enough, I didn't know this, but India does have active volcanoes, but you would never see all these different features and animals all in like walking distance like we kind of do inside of this particular movie. But it is taking very aspects of India. And I guess with that being said, it could be a blend of sort of being like Hindi, but it also might be a blend of being Muslim. So
that's why I was thinking about that. Yeah, and I was sitting there looking at the map. I was like, "But tigers live around there." But this feels like southern India. So yes, it's a mishmash. Okay, which I was trying to apply a little bit too much logic.
Well, I have not. Tarzan, right? Tarzan showed all sorts of animals that technically are on like the same continent, maybe, but they just kind of throw them all together because Disney.
It's just welcome to Africa. I mean, I guess the Lion King at least kind of has the distinction of these animals live in the savannah and these animals live in the jungle. So good for them on that, I guess.
Right, but then they have lions. That's a weird theme, right? That all these wild animal Disney movies are all being pushed to eat bugs. And I know the practical reason is because they don't want to imply that they're like killing other innocent animal, like they're not killing Bambi and they're killing rabbits and stuff, right? It's all, I guess we just don't care about bugs unless we're in the Bugs Life movie.
I was just listening to people on a podcast talking about playing the game Lorcana. Do you know what Lorcana is?
It's the Disney Magic the Gathering style game. Yeah.
Yes. So they're trying to play that, but it was one of the interesting things is to Disneyfy it. Instead of taking away someone's health and killing their character, you're trying to build up points so that you like I don't know, ascend or something, complete your mission, I guess. But it's interesting that they take out the actual vine. No, it's Mickey Mouse is not clotheslining Pluto. This is a image of Mickey Mouse taken from like Steamboat Willie strangling, a 30s color version of Pluto. It's not the real Mickey Mouse. It's not the real Pluto fighting, which I didn't understand was also Smash Brothers. I never understood that Smash Brothers is supposed to be like dolls that look like Nintendo characters that come to life and fight, which I didn't know that till yesterday. So I just thought Mario was, punching Princess Peach in the head.
That might be something that only Disney knows.
Well, Nintendo in that case, but yeah, that apparently is the lore. So it's not like, Mario is beating his woman. It's these are dolls. They're not the actual characters, which whatever, who cares if you're playing it? Like you didn't know, and no 12-year-old is going to make that distinction,
Luigi would never hurt you.
Yeah.
In fact, he'll vacuum.
He'll haunt you. That's what I'll say. He'll haunt you.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah. So, like you said, intro, I guess that's why I was thinking all the parts seem relatively well crafted. But yes, it's a kind of a babysitting movie in the end.
Well, and I think there's a really good. The main reason I even say that, and it kind of stuck with me through the whole movie, is that right when it starts, it sort of has this NLP / hypnotic spell where they're breaking the fourth wall immediately, and you're watching the movie, I guess, with them as like a family. Like right before you even see the Disney Buena Vista logo on the screen, it has them like, okay, gather around, let's all watch this together. And I was like, oh man, this is totally like if I was like a 4 years old or 6 years old or something, and someone plopped me in front of this. Like you're in the movie now. They've broken that fourth wall, and it's a little bit atypical for Disney theatrical releases, and it's seen this what right here was like, oh, this would be perfect if it was a straight to VHS. And I wonder how many straight to VHS Disney movies do something similar, where it's kind of self-aware that it's like going to put you into a little bit of a trance so mom can go vacuum.
Well, any movie does that, or any movie that catches your attention does that to a certain extent, right? But
Right,
yes,
and
a little more like
formulaic. Like they knew what they were doing, and it was like done with like masterful skill.
Speaking of formulas, I was interested that the Disney proxy is not here at all. I thought maybe Shere Khan was like going to eat Jonathan Rhys-Davies or something, but that didn't happen. So
I was expecting that too, because they make a lot of insinuations, and he's there to like kidnap, and then you think that maybe he's gonna kidnap Shanti instead, but she kind of goes off on her own. But I would kind of insinuate that Mowgli is just still living the exact same life as a Disney proxy would. In fact, he can't break from that Disney proxy programming. Like he has to get back to the woods, and he has to get back into that state where he's separated from his family, because he wants to go back to nature, but also the natural state of being inside of a Disney movie is being orphaned and separated from authority figures. So,
and we do have the return of the running off with a weird old man trope here, right? That's kind of the crux of the film. That he wants to do that again. He wants to go back and, Baloo being the weird old man, better than Merlin, but still a little odd.
Well, and also, man, this is like a rejection. This is the communists rejecting capitalism in a way. In that, like, he's in this village where there's probably some sort of shared economy. Maybe it's more socialist or something, but there's kind of like a shared economy that they insinuate. And in this particular case, right, he's like, I don't want to be with civilization. I want to go back into the jungle, which is the other weird thing too, is that the jungle is preventing Baloo from trying to go and get Mowgli, and Mowgli's family is trying to prevent him to go back to the jungle. So you've got Mowgli wants to be in the jungle. Baloo wants Mowgli in the jungle. Almost everyone wants Mowgli in the jungle except the jungle. But it almost seems that it's not personal, right? The jungle knows that it's putting itself at risk if they let this human that's supposed to be civilized back into the jungle, because he'll probably attract the other civilized. Like there's kind of like a deeper logic to why he can't go into the jungle just because he wants to and Baloo wants to. But this is him, I think, retreating from civilization and maybe some like, more advanced politics than let's just hang around and eat bugs and not have jobs.
So bestiality, Romeo and Juliet.
A little bit, I guess. I don't know. I don't think of Baloo that way. I think Baloo is more of a parental figure.
Yeah, I agree. I was I couldn't not say a phrase like that when it popped into my head, Did you catch any of the voice cast on this? Because it's actually pretty loaded.
No, I didn't pay attention to any of it. It was good because I didn't stop to think at any point that it didn't sound right. Like it all sounded great.
I'll go through a few, and a few of them you'll be like, oh yeah, of course. Mowgli in this one is actually Haley Joel Osment at the end of his original run of movies. It seems after this he didn't work for 4 years, and then started, I guess, taking on slightly more adult roles because I guess he had a weird puberty. He looked kind of he went from cute to weird looking. Yeah, he went from cute to weird looking when puberty hit. So he did a few voice roles, 2003, 2004, or 2, and whatever, somewhere around there. He did like 3, the Country Bears movie, which I like. The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, he did a voice for that. He did this. And then it looks like he just kind of hung up his dancing shoes for a few years. So, the rigors of child star. Baloo was John Goodman. So I did look at the voice cast. So, of course, I just start thinking of Sully, but Baloo is now Sully, kind of. A lazier Sully, but yeah, a more chilled out Sully, but using that contract. Come on in, John, doing our voice. I already mentioned Jonathan Rhys-Davies is the village leader, so that tracks. Pooh, the current Pooh, Jim Cummings did Ka this time around, which if you're watching, that one I felt sticks out. That was exactly. I know it sounded Pooh like in the original, but I feel like maybe more so in this one.
He nailed it.
Yeah. So again, I liked all the voice acting here. Shere Khan was Tony J, who I, kept. That's when I started looking into voice cast because like, did they get Rickman for this? He just sounded so Alan Rickman-y. But look, Tony J is notable in his own right. He's a Royal Shakespeare Company guy, so he knows how to use his voice. Just one interesting thing about Rickman is he didn't even start acting till he was like 40, right? At least not on screen. I mean. Let's see, anyone else in here that needs to be shouted out? Oh, I thought it was weird they brought back the Beetlebirds. Oh, sorry, this is the Vulture. Phil Collins is Lucky, the slow-witted Vulture, so he is still hanging around the Disney studios at this point.
And making fun of the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly, which seemed weird. I was like, well, half of them are dead, and the other half are old in 2003, so whatever. I mean, I'm a giant Beatles fan, but yeah.
It's interesting that you started talking about the Smash Brothers and the Lorcana, how they're not the actual characters, they're like substitutes for. It's like a weird Inception thing, right? Like little tokens that represent these characters. And this movie starts out in sort of a similar way where they're showing Mowgli and they're showing Baloo, but it's not them. It's like shadow theater. But if you take a step back, right? This is shadow theater being done by an animated figure inside of a movie that has no real anything in it. And then you're watching that behind a screen. And I just thought that was like a really interesting, like an animated version of Plato's Cave, where like the animation itself is another Plato's Cave. Like it's another Inception sort of feel to it. And I just, with it starting out with that breaking the fourth wall, and it leads directly into this weird Inception state. It felt extra powerful compared to any other Disney intro. I don't know if I'm putting too much in that, but it really, really felt like, oh, they just put me inside a dream, inside a dream, inside a dream, inside a dream.
And if you come back and tell people what you saw in the Jungle Book 2, they will kill you. Well, if you tell them too much about what happened, like try to detail the plot in excruciating detail, that maybe they will try to kill you. I don't know.
And also when you were mentioning like the lack or maybe just the long continuation of the Disney proxy, there's a lot of other inversions in this movie. Like that exact same point where I was expecting Shere Khan to kidnap Shanti because like he hears about her, he sees her, she's like venturing off into the jungle by herself, but he doesn't. He's just using her to find where Mowgli's at. But that moment would have been the perfect damsel in distress. Like, oh no, his love interest that got kidnapped, a kid got kidnapped. It would have been kind of like perfect for all that stuff to link up. But it doesn't happen. And in fact, she kind of has her own agency where she doesn't get kidnapped. She kind of explores herself. She runs away, which is a total inversion of the most normal formula for that. And then there's also this weird inversion that gets hinted at the very beginning of the movie, because Mowgli has this quote and he says, "I never knew where I came from, but I always knew where I belonged." And this seems like the exact opposite of my experience around like 12 or 13, where like you kind of know where you come from, but you have like you don't feel like you belong anywhere. Like it's this awkward. Maybe that was just a me thing, but it seems like that's kind of the universal experience, is that when you're, coming of age, you don't really know where you belong. And it's sort of this like luxury that Mowgli does know. He wants to go back to the jungle. Like he's already had like the sweet, sweet taste of freedom, I guess.
No, I kind of bopped off to the other side of the world, so you're not wrong. I did find the family structure to be kind of weird and convoluted because let's take Aladdin. After that, it's like, well, Aladdin and Jasmine can get married now, but Shanti and Mowgli are like 10, maybe. So they're still kids. So they have this really weird setup where they have the little brother that's kind of like this weird microcosm, like, oh, they got together and here it's like a little family. But then there's a bigger family with the mother and the village leader who don't die. And it just seemed like they were having trouble trying to work out how to make that happen with 10-year-olds because it can't be romantic. So
it kind of is, though. It kind of is romantic. They imply it in so many different ways.
Oh, they do all the like, you like her. But I thought it was weird that they kind of built that weird, like you could see like the I forgot what the little brother's name is, but with Mowgli, Shanti, and him, it's like this weird microcosm. Ranjan, that's it. It's it was, I could see people in the writer's room having headaches trying to like work out how to do this properly, you know? It felt sweaty, maybe.
Well, it was kind of the same. It reminded me of the dinosaur movie, where the dinosaur is just trying to get back to his own kind, and when he finally gets there, he's like, "Oh, that's why I've got this instinct, because there's like a female version of my species that I need to mate with." So Mowgli in the jungle has no real option, right, outside of maybe like a weird inversion of the Oedipus complex with Baloo, but like he has no real viable option. And the second that he sees a human girl, and they retcon all this, but as soon as he sees a human girl, it's like, okay, I'm into the village thing now. I can leave the jungle. And it is interesting. Again, I think a sign of being like having a little bit of mastery in this. It's a little clunky, but they have this exposition where it starts out and he's doing this like this Inception style shadow play, right? And right at the end of the play, he talks about how Shere Khan gets lit on fire, and the brother Rajan, he like jumps up and he attacks the screen that the shadows are being projected on. And when he knocks it all over, he kind of ends this thing early, but he says, "Oh, don't worry, like everyone knows how this ends. You know, you saw my sister in the jungle and you basically had the hots for her and you followed her into village, the end." And I thought that was like so smart, the way that they were like, "Oh, here's what happened between the last movie and this movie in about 5 seconds."
How deep did you look into the actual book, the second Jungle Book, which has nothing whatsoever to do with this movie?
I noticed that it didn't have much to do with it, so I didn't try and do a comparison, because this felt like even more of a departure than even Walt Disney usually had people do.
Right. Well, there's no reason to compare, but I was thinking, like, what if Disney had taken one of these? Let's see, there's 16 chapters, but half of them are poems. So, and not all the stories include Mowgli, as is actually the point of the book. But there's a few where I am like, could this work? Okay, one of them's a prequel. The first one's a prequel. This story takes place before Mowgli fights Shere Khan. So it's that would be the Lion King. What is it, 1.5 or something, where they show little Simba having adventures in the jungle, right? You could do that, I guess. Maybe.
I think
what else?
So. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Mowgli in like a GTA style game would be pretty awesome, where you just like go between villages and jungle and stuff. That would be kind of Assassin's Creed style.
Geez, you are setting up the next one. Letting in the Jungle. Mowgli has been driven out of the human village for witchcraft, and the superstitious villagers are preparing to kill his adopted parents. Mowgli rescues him and then prepares to take revenge. That never was going to be this movie, but I'd like to see that one.
Wait, that's Jungle Book 3, or is that part of Jungle Book 2?
That's 2. There are many. It's a bunch of short stories in this one.
Wow, I really need to read Jungle Book 2.
Okay, I'm not finished. I'm not finished, by the way.
Okay, let's get going.
The king's Ankus, Mowgli discovers a jeweled object beneath the cold layers, which he later discards carelessly, not realizing that men will kill each other to possess it. Okay, yeah, sure. That's too hardcore for this Disney movie, but that's almost like a weird version of Indiana Jones. It sounds like.
Which itself was based on a Disney property, so it's all full circle.
Now, here's a story just about a teenage Inuit boy and girl set off across the Arctic. And that guided by a mysterious spirit animal. Is an Arctic a jungle? I don't think so. That's a desert, right? Okay. Here we go. The spring running. Mowgli, now almost 17 years old, is growing restless for reasons he cannot understand. On an aimless run through the jungle, he stumbles across a village where his adopted mother is now living with her 2-year-old son, is torn between staying with her and returning to a jungle. He's not 17 in this movie, but otherwise, I guess that would be the closest.
That's the one. Yeah, that sounds the most like it.
But I don't think anyone at Disney Animation actually read that story. I think it's just, that's one obvious way to continue the story. I definitely like
to. They weren't allowed to read it.
I want the one where he's where they call him a witch and then he gets revenge. I mean, that's the one I want to see, I guess. There is a movie called The Jungle Book 2 as well, which is different than this. The second Jungle Book, Mowgli and Baloo, with Roddy McDowall. Okay. it's what is this one? Okay, I'm not gonna. This one seems like a mishmash. It seems to follow the second Jungle Book just as much as this does. They just use the title a little more overtly. Who made that? That's not Disney, is it? Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, that's the me looking for stuff music. That's no good. Sony. Okay, that one's Sony. So who did live action ones in the 90s? I guess I didn't go see them. Those, I was a late teens, and those were not on my radar.
Are we not going to get to those? Are those nothing to do with Disney, the live action Jungle Books?
That one is Sony, and the one from a few years earlier, I would assume, is also Sony.
I didn't know that. I always assumed that those were Disney remakes. There's
the quote unquote live action Disney remake from about 8 years ago, but that's one of those ones that's really just a CGI movie where they threw a kid on a few green screens, right?
that's the ticket.
I mean, this is one of those things like Tarzan, where there's just so many versions of it. An Italian-Japanese anime, The Jungle Book, notes, adaptations, a Jungle Book cycle of music. Oh, I didn't even know that existed.
I wonder how many of the non-Disney Jungle Book adaptations just get some of that like Disney splash over because either someone gets it by mistake, or it's cheaper, it's the only one there, or they really like Jungle Book, so they go and they get the other Jungle Book stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if there's a viable market in just doing kind of like the Asylum Pictures version of every Disney movie.
In the 90s, for sure. Think of, again, the supermarket, VHS shelves were full of that stuff. They didn't have actual Disney movies there. Japan, lots of you'll find tons and tons of off-brand, Cinderella and Jungle Book and stuff. Yeah, storybooks as well.
That might be fun to just do a few like off-brand Occult Disney.
I bet we still have one around here. Because like we did have like a lot of the actual movies, but you end up, when you have a kid, just a few of these things just end up in your house and you don't know how it got there. I guess they send them to you in the mail sometimes. Get subscribed to our crappy animation thing and get crappy animation every month.
You want more crappy stuff? Here you go.
Yeah. But if it's grandma who doesn't care, maybe that sounds great.
So there was a spot here where the chick Shanti, she says, everyone knows tigers don't come into the village, and then Rajan, her little brother, he says tigers go wherever they want, which feels like the most obvious foreshadowing ever in any Disney movie. But this led, and I just want to have a little excerpt for this like legend of Bombibi, which is again the influence for that everyone knows tigers don't come into villages. So it comes from like a few different books, but one of the main books is the Sundarbans, probably pronouncing that horribly. And it's basically talking about this protector of the forest and all its inhabitants, and that in the legend, Bombibi was sent by Allah. So we're probably not talking about Hindi here, but sent by Allah to protect the people of the Sundarbans from the dangers of the forest, and that the locals would pray to Bombibi, and there was actual banishment ritual that involved mustard seeds. And I guess mustard seeds in this particular religion are known for, they would scatter them around the village and are known for cleansing properties. So it almost reminds me of like in, I guess, medieval or even like Western magic, they use salt. Like salt will protect you. You put it in like a ring and everything. But I guess mustard seeds is another version of that, and mustard seeds in particular keep demons at bay. So I just thought that was particularly interesting.
I guess there's the other side to the ascetic looking for enlightenment and meditating in caves and in jungles and stuff, and the idea there. And I'm not, I don't have the cojones to try it, but in that case, the tiger simply doesn't bother you, which I don't know how that works out. I guess the people that came back to say the tiger didn't bother them didn't get eaten by the tiger, but.
Also, wouldn't you have people like watching over a village in the middle of the night? It just seems like a neighborhood watch kind of situation. If there's even a chance that a Bengal tiger or a bear would just be able to walk over a couple pebbles over a river and get into your village, they got in completely undetected and they were able to have free reign. So it just seems like it would be really obvious to have a watchman somewhere in the village.
Well, I'm thinking about 20 years ago, I was working at like a summer camp or whatever in Pennsylvania, the Poconos, and we had it was like first like a little rumor, like I think a bear's around, I think there's a bear around, and then there was a bear around, and then myself and like maybe two other teachers like kind of followed it like maybe 100 meters behind to make sure it didn't go in a dorm or something. But there was nobody watching, right? It's just like, hey, is that a bear? And then they asked someone else, yeah, that's a bear. And yeah, so we were lucky to notice it, I guess. I don't know, maybe we shouldn't have been following a bear, but we were like, we don't want to go into a kid's dorms. There were kids staying at that time, so
Well, you were at least aware of it. And there's another, I guess, weird part of this movie is that they imply that no one ever leaves the jungle, which is kind of another alternate weird concept to keep in mind, where if you're Shanti and you're afraid of the jungle and everyone tells you never go into the jungle and the jungle won't come into this village, does that mean that anyone ever born in this particular village just lives and dies in that village because they never go outside of that? It seems impractical, but and I realize it's probably not like an absolute, like maybe there's a few shaman or a few like hunters that can leave the village and we just don't meet them in this movie. But it's almost implied that like once you're in the village, you stay in the village, like M. Night Shyamalan style.
I imagine it would have some traders. Okay, M. Night Shyamalan style, they were not. Well, Mononoke had the the indigenous village, right? So that was kind of hidden away, and the idea was they stay put. So the fact that what's his name leaves is, well, he gets exiled, doesn't he? So
well, she mentions being scared of the jungle, and Mowgli is like, he can't process this idea of being scared of the jungle. And in fact, he goes into this whole musical number, like a jazzy blues music, like he turns black for about 5 minutes as he sings this song. But and it's a really catchy song. It's called The Jungle Rhythm, I think. But the lines inside Jungle Rhythm, so it goes immediately from Shanti saying, paraphrasing, I'm scared of the jungle, I'm not going to go into the jungle, to him being like, can you hear it? Can you hear that rhythm? Can you hear the rhythm of the jungle? And then he just starts dancing and singing. And one of the lyrics in this song is, feel it steal your soul. And he's singing this. And as he's singing, feel it steal your soul, all the other kids in the village, they kind of form a line behind him, almost Pied Piper style.
That's direct in my notes. He almost Pied Pipered all the kids into the jungle.
Dude, and he gets them over the river until Shanti sort of snaps herself out of this hypnotic spell and she screams, stop, which is kind of like that breaking pattern if you're, trying to like break yourself out of hypnosis or something. And it snaps all the kids except for Mowgli, because I don't even think he was intentionally like Pied Pipering all these kids, but he wanted to go in the jungle. Like he was singing from his heart, and it's almost like there's an inherent need for them to expand their knowledge and get out of this village, and he just tapped into it immediately. But man, like they are in an absolute trance, and when she says stop, you can see him like shake it off a little bit, like, oh yeah, what are we doing? This is crazy. And then they go back to the village. I just thought that was really, really fucking cool. And then he gets grounded for doing it.
My note later is that this is all a psyop to get Shanti into the village, into a jungle, excuse me, with that being the first thing. And I guess they're going swing jazz, because I wrote, I don't think anyone equates the jungle to swing jazz. I thought that was a good song, weird choice.
Weird choice. I don't hate it. It was really, really weird, but in a great way, I guess. Like they pulled it off really well.
Possibly the reason is the one character that's very missing from this movie is Louis Prima's character, which I'm looking at the wrong page here now, but what's his name? King Louis is not here. They even go to King Louis's pad and they're like, oh, he's not here, because
they took it over.
But that's because they're having legal troubles with the Louis Prima estate. So that's why King Louis is not in this movie. He does show up in the remake. So by 2016, I guess they had
they get the legal issues sorted out.
Sorted out the legal issues. That's right. So in the 2016 one, he is there. I do remember actually watching that like not long after it came out and like not hating it, but it also, that might have been like babysitter mode. Like my daughter's 7 at the time, and We watched it, so I guess it's not babysitting if you're watching it with her. But yeah, that was like the last time I watched one of those remakes and was like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. After that, the bottom kind of fell out for me, I guess.
Well, and speaking of babysitting and infantile mindsets, again, the communism angle gets pushed like really hard in this one. I guess it's just because of Baloo and Mowgli. But that, again, like if there was one nugget that they keep, like a magnet, they keep getting pulled back to, it's this feeling of like, I don't want to work. I want to do whatever, which is not the communism I think they would end up with if they really got everything they wanted and everyone kind of fell into the same plan.
Well, let's see. He describes the jungle
twice in this movie.
Yeah, he describes the village as everyone works and no one plays, which after that I wrote, you'll own nothing and you'll love it, which I guess you were kind of getting at earlier. But what other? Oh, here's a weird quote, just because it sounded so Crowley-like. Did you catch this one? Tonight's the night we're going to bring out the beast in you. I don't know. It felt a little weird.
I didn't catch that one. It's a great one.
Yeah. I think that was in King Louis's old pad where they say that possibly. But I thought that was interesting. Like, okay, you're back in the jungle, but we have to like, what's the word I'm looking for? We need to turn your trigger on now or whatever, right? You still smell like the village. You need to, oh God, what is it? Activate. We need to activate you. That's what I was looking for. I had to think of Manchurian Candidate, and then I could think of the word activate too. But yeah, it was kind of like, okay, you're back. Let's seal the deal. We're going to bring out the beast in you. So, and of course, I'm hearing the beast, and I'm just thinking of, well, actually, first I'm thinking of the X-Men, and then I'm thinking of Crowley. But that's because I grew. Yeah, that's where my dork lies.
But I had my own tangent on this, and I can't even explain. It connects in my head. I can't explain to you how it all connects, but when I was trying to think of why does the jungle care so much about keeping Mowgli out? Like the elephants are part of Plan B, and like when Baloo gets over this bridge and they can't stop him, the elephants come in and they block him, and like the entire jungle knows about all these ways to prevent Baloo from going to get Mowgli and preventing Mowgli from entering the jungle. Like they've got all these different sort of firewalls to prevent this from happening. And it only would make sense that they would have this much effort and plans if Mowgli was like a crazy vital threat to the rest of the jungle. And here's where the tangent comes in, where I was like, okay, yeah, so maybe like the worst case scenario is that if Mowgli gets hurt or if anyone gets hurt, the village will take it out in the jungle. They'll go in and say, you know what, we need to just take out all these bears and all these tigers to keep ourselves protected. That, or if the humans go into the jungle and realize, oh, this isn't so bad, it's not so scary, we should expand, we should chop some tree, we should put a McDonald's over here, like that might be the two sort of outcomes. And if those are the outcomes, if humans did expand to the jungle and kill them all, and I swear it connects. I can't explain how.
Think it draws a line back to the Mononoke thing again. Isn't that basically what's happening in that movie?
Yeah. It's a Fern Gully kind of thing. But the end result of that, right, is that humans wipe out the entire ecosystem, all the animals and plant. Like it's all gone. Humans take over all of it. And then I was like, well, that's kind of what happens now, right? Like we just we'll go into a rainforest and we'll wipe out, probably species that we didn't even know existed, and now they're gone because they have high biodiversity, not bioavailability or whatever. I can't remember the exact phrase, but basically there's lots of different stuff, but maybe not lots of each different thing, right? So it's really easy if you wiped out an entire rainforest anywhere that you would probably eliminate like an entire species that no one even found yet. So if humans keep doing that, right? If we ever figure out a way to create like lab grown meat, like if we don't have to hunt the tiger or the cow or a pig or whatever, and we have no real reason for it to be around, do they just go extinct? Like do elephants only exist because humans want elephants to exist? And alligators and any animal on the endangered species list, does it only exist because humans, almost in an altruistic, maybe self-serving way, but it's, the alien zoo Twilight Zones and stuff, or like they just keep a human just because it's a novel thing for kids to look at, and like there's no other real reason for it to exist. So if Mowgli in the village takes over the jungle and they knock everything out, and let's say they even put like cows there. I guess cow wouldn't work because if they're in India, like maybe they revere the cow, but if they revere it, right, there's no real reason for it to exist anymore, though, because at that point, humans would already kind of have like self-served everything. They've evolved to the point of not even needing a jungle to exist. So the tangent I was going on is like, at one point, is it just all humans and bugs, and there is no other animals because we've learned to just create their meat in a lab, and there's no real reason for the real thing to exist?
Well, that comes up a lot. Again, we do eat bugs in this prefecture. They've been doing that for hundreds of years. You can eat bee larvae. You can eat some locusts, soy-covered locust. I tend to avoid those, but but
Do you think it might be a good idea to just like have it once in a while, just to like acclimate your palate for when we all go full bug?
Well, I had the locust. This was funny. This is maybe 10 or more years ago. We were like at a rural restaurant and run by very old people. And I don't know if they were like trying to mess with me or they're like whatever, but it's like, here's service. Here's a free appetizer, which was the inago, which my daughter was 3 at the time. She just started chowing down on them. So she seemed perfectly happy to eat some bugs. I ate one. The taste was fine, but it's a bug, and the leg gets in your tooth, and that's not cool. That's not fun. I haven't tried the bee larva yet.
Up into a powder and turn it into a flour, and you bake a little whatever out of the flour. I think all that goes away, right? If you pulverize it to the point where there's no mandibles and legs to get caught in teeth anymore, then you could slip that into anything. Like I would say probably Taco Bell has probably got like 5%, like crushed mandibles in their food. They just name it something silly.
Yeah, I mean, when you have that delicious chocolate chip cookie, I mean, how much rat feces and bug parts are in there? There's a little bit, right?
All the good parts, yeah.
All the yummy parts, yes. That's a delicious part of your cookie.
So speaking of, again, this, maybe people knew this one, but I just always thought it was weird that Baloo was eating bugs and honey and stuff. But sloth bears, native to India and Sri Lanka, even though they're technically omnivores, their diet is like over 90% bugs and honey. It's literally insects, fruit, and honey, and it only changes at one point at a time in the year when I guess the bugs go into like hibernation or something, and then they just eat fruit. And their main source of protein is basically termites. They just eat termites. So that's what Baloo would really be looking for all the time. But that sounds like way more work. Like that's a lot of work to get, find termites and drill them out of some kind of like a log and eat them all up.
There is a lot of biodiversity. It's the jungle. You get jungle rot things, or maybe you don't have to go as far. I don't know. Bugs. We won't get the honey though, right? They keep telling us that the bees are disappearing. So it's just bugs, no honey.
I think that's fine.
What's like getting back to Star Trek, there's the Discovery. They go to the distant future, and the guy's talking about how all of their food is synthetic now, and the apple he's eating is actually made of recomposited feces. So it's a delicious apple, but it was recently crap, literally.
I mean, if no one told you, you wouldn't know.
If no one told you, you wouldn't know. That's right. So, but as soon as someone tells you, it's like, do I want it? My buddy, we have a running joke because he'd visit every few months, and every time he'd start telling me about how Kyoto University was making a hamburger out of feces. So, and he kept telling the story like every time he'd show up. A few drinks were probably involved too, but yeah, it's like, dude, I know.
It's honestly a good question. What if there was a super cheap, highly nutritious, good tasting food that you could sustain yourself on forever, but it was made out of
Soylent Green.
Yeah, I guess so. So Soylent Green, a great example. So if we go with the Soylent Green example, right? I realize the whole spoiler alert premise of that movie is that it's like this dystopian horror movie where it's like, oh my God, we've been eating people this whole time. But, right? There's another way to view that movie, and it's like, it's almost doing a devil's advocate, but you're almost doing a disservice to humanity or society at large by telling them it's made out of people, because this might be the only real way for them to get sort of like a renewable protein source, right? So the second you tell everyone Soylent Green is people, then they stop eating Soylent Green. Well, now they're going to all die of like malnutrition, I would assume, because Soylent Green has no reason to exist if all other forms of protein were like readily accessible and affordable, which is not the case in Soylent Green.
Have you seen that movie?
It's been a while, but yeah, I've definitely seen Soylent Green. Yeah, it's like the miracle food that like you can put it in everything, and people are, and they're just using it everywhere. And then finally they slowly realize, and the guy tells everybody, Soylent Green is people. That's the big thing.
Because other big thing that people forget in that movie was the assisted suicide centers. Once Edward G. Robinson's character gets fed up with living in a crowded dystopia, he goes to a nice uncrowded building where everyone's wearing white robes and looks like an Apple store, and they take you into a big theater and show you the nature that's gone while they pump in the chemicals to off you. So it's like, if you've had enough, hey, there's a real nice place you can go and die.
Right. And think about it. If you were living in a Soylent Green reality and you come to terms with it and you're okay with Soylent Green being people, then the people that aren't okay with it, they end up being your Soylent Green. Like, it's this perfect sort of system where it's if you're like, I cannot live with the idea that I'm going to be eating other people, then you get to become food.
Eat or be eaten. Okay,
right?
Sure.
Like literally, yeah, it's literally eat or be eaten.
Scrolling through that's a good point. Clearly we're on bug day, but that's fine. We're in the jungle, so it makes sense.
I've got a couple other weird ones where Shanti gets lured into the forest. There's a really interesting point, sort of like a Joseph Campbell hero cycle plot point, where she's about to go into the forest and she hears her name being called, and she makes a very conscious decision like, nope, I'm going to go into the forest. So that was a really good way of like showing that crossing the threshold sort of point of no return, where she's like made her mind up, she's going to go into it anyways. And then as soon as she gets into the forest, she sees this illusion of Mowgli, which ends up being an owl. It kind of looks like Owl from 100 Acre Wood, which made me wonder, like, in a Disney logic sense, like how far away is 100 Acre Wood? Is it?
I don't know if you caught it, but
like lays on
when
top
Baloo
of it.
When Baloo was underwater, Flounder showed up for a second. It's like, what's Flounder doing there?
Honestly, it makes me think that maybe these are all different realities in like a quantum way. They like sit on top of each other, occupying the same space. So this is 100 Acre Wood in some cases.
Disney Animation Studio, right?
So she gets tricked by this silhouette of Owl from 100 Acre Wood that looks like Mowgli at first. And then she gets hypnotized by Ka, which is my favorite thing ever. Like, Ka is like one of the coolest Disney characters because he just gives them like these MK Ultra hypnotic eyes, and she gets kind of like lulled into that. So they show you her like initiation. She's entering this forest. She's entering the unknown at night. So she's about to like go into the darkness. She gets hypnotized, and then the very next scene is we're talking about a secret society. This is the secret city which Baloo has taken over from King Louis. And then they even have this really weird, I swear it was like an NLP mind control programming series of triggers, but Mowgli's asking Baloo, or Baloo's like, this is the greatest secret hideout ever. Everyone knows about it. And Mowgli's like, well, if everyone knows about it, then how can it be a secret? And then Baloo, I feel like I got hypnotized out of this one, but he says, anybody who's anybody, nobody who's nobody, don't know nothing about no place, and that everybody who's anybody knows about. And I had to like rewatch that a few times, and it did make sense if you listen back to it, but it's like so many different negatives that like invert each other that it seems that whatever came after that, I blacked out. I blacked out for like 15 minutes. Whatever happened else in the movie, I have no recollection.
Yeah, I think that's where I got the Beast quote as well, by the way, from that song. I'm looking at my notes. That's the spot. So,
and when Mowgli says like, I don't get it, Baloo literally tells him, he says, turn off the thinker and just dive in for a second. So if if you understand the premise, right, that we're watching this, we're like in our 40s, right? So we've been around for at least 4 decades. But if you're like a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old and you're watching this and you just straight up get this, like, everybody knows about it, anybody who's anybody, nobody who's nobody, don't know nothing about no play. Like, you just hearing all this, you'll just gloss over and you just hear Baloo, your only remaining parental figure through Disney proxy, tells you, turn off the thinker. Let's just dive in for a second. Like, you are now fully engrossed into this and accepting. And again, it goes kind of into like a communist sort of mantra.
Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream, or to go downstream. It's one of those two.
And there's one other really interesting part of this, like, secret society, secret city that Baloo is running with all the animals. And Mowgli's there to, like, participate in it, and they're all like singing and dancing. But all of the singing and dancing revolves around how basically everyone's allowed there except for humans. And that there's even a line in the song that's something about, like, we didn't learn from no human folk, and that he goes, it's inhuman, baby. But the way that he says it's inhuman, baby, is like a good thing. It's like, no, it's good that there's no humans around here. So here we've got Mowgli that's left humanity, entered the jungle again, and he's celebrating the lack of humanity. So I thought that was really interesting that they're basically, and it makes no sense, because when he says we didn't take anything from any humans, they're saying this in like the fallen ruins of like a human civilization.
Yeah. Well, that's part of that is the part that, if nothing else, they did very well in the 2016 movie. I remember them doing a pretty good job with the King Louis sequence, being like, that's the part of the movie I can remember. So not one we'll necessarily get to, but I don't feel if people are like, do them, but I don't feel a giant urge to hit the remakes. I don't know. Are there any of the remakes that caught your attention? Did you watch any of them? Because what we got? We got the Alice in Wonderland kicking it off. Then Maleficent. I think that's about when the Jungle Book hits. And after that is when it clicked with me. This is probably a bad idea.
Cruella. The Cruella de Vil movie, I thought, was a really good remake.
Okay. Maybe I'll have to check that out sometime. But yeah. But this is the one where I was just like, well, I think I can actually give a prop or two to that 2016 version. It wasn't that bad.
The quote, the communist quote from Baloo is, "Never broke, never squawk, never work, don't need to punch a clock." Or I might be paraphrasing part of that. So yeah, he doesn't want to work, and Mowgli was complaining about rules, and like work, and that he just wanted the exact opposite of that. So I just
again, the village description is everyone works and nobody plays. So it's, put in very stark contrast in that scene, I think.
Which makes them all the more susceptible to that Pied Piper dance, right? If everyone had their own creative outlets in that village, then I think they wouldn't have been so led on by Mowgli's weird little hypnotic dance. But because they have no other outlet, he served as like the one outlet. And I don't know how much of this was meant. I guess it's a Disney, so it was always going to be a musical no matter what. But one of the specific traits of the people that honor that demon god, the demon that turns into the tiger, as opposed to the BB character who they would worship to kind of be as like preventative, but the demon god of the tigers also would attract musicians, not in the movie, but in like the actual mythology, and he kind of represented music. So you would play music in order to appease this god. So not only is Mowgli kind of using music to bring everyone out into the forest, but even when they see Shere Khan at the very end, when he finds Mowgli and he finds Shanti, they start playing drums, they start playing music literally at him, like they're trying to distract him, they're trying to disorient him by banging on all these different huge like gongs and plates, right? But it was so interesting because that's literally how you would be worshiping Shere Khan. It's not, you wouldn't use that to attack him, you would use that to appease him.
That actually is interesting. There was a canceled sequel, which actually I don't know why they didn't make it. That this one made a fair amount of money. Maybe it's the actors, I don't know. Probably not, they're voice actors. Okay, anyway. In 2003, a third installment to the Jungle Book was planned. It would have been about Baloo and Shere Khan being captured and sold to a Russian circus, which sounds a little bit like Madagascar 3, if I remember correctly. And Mowgli, Shanti, Rajan, and Bagheera deciding to save them both. Over the course of the film, Shere Khan regrets his hatred against humanity after the events of the previous 2 films because of his capture. It eventually reforms after Mowgli and his friends rescued them. The project never materialized, but they were it looked like they wanted to bring Khan into the fold for the next one. I don't know, which maybe the music took its works after a while, is my thought there. By the third movie, the music is taking hold, and now Shere Khan is the god is helping them.
I kind of don't like the idea of any of them going to a circus, just because right now, Jungle Book 1 and 2, they kind of exist in a nondescript time period. Like, they could be existing right now just as much as they could be existing 100 or 200 years ago. But the second you bring a circus in, now we're talking, 20th, 21st century automatically.
Someone may have said that in the writer's room, and that's why it got canceled. But again, they didn't make it. But I thought it was interesting that they're like, okay, now let's make Shere Khan a friend. He's going to be one of our buddies in the next one. Which, if you're appeasing the god, sorry, I can't spit out the name. I think you have it written down. But if you've appeased the god, now the tiger's on your side, right? Or
yeah, it was
not trying to kill you actively.
Dakin Rai, and I'm positive I'm pronouncing that wrong, but Dakin Rai.
The ending scene of this movie is extremely Disney movie, of course, but I think in this case it kind of undermines the whole thing. Like, Mowgli's chose his path now, but in the end of this movie, no, he can have his cake and eat it too. I'm like, well, any point this movie had, you just undermined by having, you can just go right out of the village and hang out with Baloo, no problem.
Maybe, but again, if you start with how the movie opened up, it's through shadow work. Like, literally, it's Mowgli doing shadow work, right? I mean, it's a shadow play. He's doing shadow work, and he's struggling with learning how to be a human, and he keeps wanting to revert back into an animal or embracing his animus, right? And this almost made me think, like, this isn't the Jungle Book. This is the young old book, right? Here we've got this kid going through a hero's journey, but he's rejecting sort of the natural progression of how he's coming to understand the world. So he needs to revert back into that primal animus. And then the anima, represented by Shanti, also gets lured into that jungle. So when he comes back out, he's kind of represents the completion of both. Like, he's integrated his shadow work. So now it makes sense that he can traverse between the village and the jungle as he pleases, because that was the whole point. Was like, this whole movie was about Mowgli integrating his kind of shadow self and his animus.
Yeah, my snarky note is they just had to do bare necessities one more time, which is what they did. But
right. No, really, communism is the way. Here, we'll prove it. Here's a catchy song.
Yeah, I mean, that was in the movie 3 or 4 times. It's like they had no faith in the songs they made for this movie, and like we said, a couple of them weren't too bad. So yeah, they didn't have faith in themselves.
Was a low point, just because they were also not even like going all out and doing the full song. They were like weird little half-ass remixes. It was weird.
Yo, half-ass remix. Get down with it. Yeah. Okay. The worst hype man ever will be saying that. Did you have any other rabbit holes you wanted to stick your nose into?
No, I think I got way more out of Jungle Book, or the Jungle Book 2, than I ever expected to. It was a serviceable movie, and despite maybe you not seeing it on the surface, I really do feel there was lots of like really deep mythology that was and maybe this is just one of those weird synchronicities where it just kind of lines up with real mythology. I don't know how much they went into this, the same way that they completely departed from the real Jungle Book 2, where apparently Mowgli does witchcraft and he gets hunted down by the Puritans.
Yeah. No, I started off this podcast saying I thought this movie was a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. I found my actual quote that I wrote, which is this movie is sound and fury signifying nothing, but we will find lots of rabbit holes. So that was clear watching it, that there's the devil's in the details for this one, I guess. It's not like a big overarching, other than we're going to eat bugs. There's not like a big thing here, but there's lots of small things, right? Like tiger gods and such.
And it's integrate your shadow work and everyone wants to revert back to the jungle, but we're beyond that. Like, unfortunately, we just can't. And in some cases, it might be for the sake of the jungle. It's not even for you to be protected. It's like we need to protect the jungle from us.
Have you had any jungle time? Spent some time in the jungle?
I actually did. I went to Peru to go to Machu Picchu, but on the way there, we had to stay at a bunch of different places, and there was I don't know if it was Aguas Calientes, which isn't technically like a rainforest jungle, but it was like jungle environment atmosphere. And the guy that I was traveling with left the bathroom window open overnight and the light on. Like, he got up in the middle of the night and like used the bathroom and left the light on, left the window open. And when I went into the bathroom in the morning, I saw every color I've ever seen represented as bugs in that bathroom. There was like flying bright pink things and crawling bright blue thing. It was the weirdest, most scariest thing. It was like, one of these things in this room could probably sting me and kill me, and I wouldn't even know how to describe it to anybody. But it was crazy. Like, there was probably like 40 or 50 different species of bugs in the bathroom that had been attracted by the light overnight.
You hadn't had ayahuasca the previous night.
I had not. I was tempted, but we were on a tight schedule. I did go pretty ham on the coca leaves and the coca tea everywhere.
Well, you have to in high elevations, don't you? That's like survival.
Right, yeah, it opens up your capillaries. It lets you. And I had a shaman offer me, peyote, I believe. I think because there was a town called San Pedro, and I asked someone, I was like the San Pedro cactus? Like, there's San Pedro cat, and this guy like overheard. It was a long story, but long story short, yeah. So this like questionable shaman wearing a Wu-Tang shirt was like, "Hey, I can get you some peyote."
Yeah. Questionable shaman. I don't know. I haven't been to Peru, so I don't know what the vibe is. My only jungle is Okinawa, which is like that's jungle for babies, right? I guess. You can walk around on roads, that sort of thing. So. I guess we'll wrap things up for today. I guess tell the good folk about your September as we are plowing into September now.
I've been doing a lot of work on the NASA comic. It'll probably be shipping if you're listening to this. It should be shipping pretty soon. And it's going to have embroidered patches, but also I'm going to be throwing in some free conspiracy cards. I don't know if I've even mentioned this to you. I've got a million projects going on all the time, so I tend to not talk about them until they're like ready to go finally, because otherwise you'd just be hearing about it for years. But conspiracycards.com, it's still kind of in the works, but I'll be including some of them in a bunch of the different orders. And what the heck are conspiracy cards? Well, for example, I just finished designing 10 or 20, and this portion of the little series, it's got kind of conspiracy theorist MVPs. So we've got Art Bell, Alex Jones, William Cooper, Isaac Cappy. We've got like just a Ted Gunderson, just like a long list of well-known and lesser known, but they're all been updated to look like classic 1990s Don Russ and Fleer and Topps baseball cards. I went all out. I like absolutely meticulously tried to match everything about them, and then just twist a little bit. But basically, you've got a bunch of like baseball cards, but all the baseball cards are various conspiracy theory figures. You got like a Werner von Braun that's got like a swastika on his baseball helmet.
No, I was about to ask you if you're making the Lorcana of conspiracies, but baseball. I remember the Topps cards. Yeah,
eventually, so I do want to make like a gamified version of these, and there will be, but it's just a lot of work to make sure that the gameplay itself is fun and not just some gimmick. So I absolutely the whole the long plan of this is that there will be all these character cards, which I'm putting out now slowly, but then there'll be like location cards, and there'll be object cards, and there'll be event cards. And once I've got like a whole chunk of cards in each of those categories, then there'll be sort of like a rule list that'll show you how to play a game with the cards that are already kind of released. So I'm kind of baking stats in and like numbers and like almost like gematria into some of the cards just so that they can later be used as kind of game tokens. So it's all coming. It sounds crazy, but I swear it's been like well thought out for the last few years here.
Loopholes in the game based on gematria. There you go.
I mean, 100%, man. And yeah, more details soon. But yeah, if you just go to paranoidamerican.com, you can check out all the cool stuff. If you buy something, you'll get one of these conspiracy cards in your order. And I'll probably have packs of them out pretty soon after I do a couple conventions later this year.
On my end, I guess I'll focus on the podcasts today. I do a bunch of podcasts. You can find most of them at patreon.com at Podcastius. We're just wrapping up a look at the show Space 1999, which has a bunch of weird, occult, trippy 70s stuff in it. We just did an episode called The Seance Spectre, which did have a seance, but no specter. So sometimes the title in that show is a little wonky. We mentioned The Twilight Zone. I talk about all those episodes with Alien Zoos. That's a Time Enough podcast and things like that. Films and Filth, where recently we've been talking about films like 50 Shades of Black, starring Marlon Wayans, and Spice World. Time to scuttle off into the jungle, I suppose. Just, try and avoid the jungle rot and 40 colors of 50 Shades of Bugs.
Spread the word with propaganda packs, all for just $40 shipped at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
These huge all-weather slaps will last in public for years to come. Remind citizens that birds are not real. Self-immolation is an option, and might make you magnetic. Do your part and get a propaganda pack today from paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid propaganda packs. We got facts on these sticker slaps. So grab yourself a stack and go attack with these paranoid propaganda packs.
What are you waiting for? Go to paranoidamerican.com right now and get a paranoid propaganda pack.
Ready for a cosmic conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and the CIA? Go visit nasacomic.com.
nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com. Oh, nasacomic.com, CIA's biggest con. Stanley Kubrick put us on, that's why we're singing this song. I'm nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Go visit nasacomic.com. Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com.
Never a Straight Answer is a 40-page comic about Stanley Kubrick directing the Apollo space missions.
Yeah, go visit nasacomic.com.
This is the perfect read for comic, Kubrick, or conspiracy fans of all ages. For more details, visit nasacomic.com.
All American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
We're all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when the beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.